What's up, guys? Specstar here today with my semi-final battle of the LD Promotional playoffs, and I'm going up here against Jeremy, and he has got himself a team consisting of Kn-EEL, Alolan Muck, Vaporeon, Azelf, Ribombee, and Landorus Therian. Out of the Pokemon he brought, Landorus Therian is the only Z option, and I am joined here by my little Chihuahua Shadow. Say hello to the people. Maybe not the greatest English speaker. It's kind of his second language, but you know, whatever. Jeremy did win a key game at the end that helped us get to the playoffs, but here now it is our goal to destroy him, to crush his dreams, and move on to the finals for promotion. So, I've got myself a team here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it before I get into the battle. Let me get the right scene. There we go. Starting off here, I've got a Blastoise. Nothing too special about the EVs. I got a little bit of speed in case he wants to creep me. Max special attack, so I'm able to hit harder. I consider running defensive ball, but it kind of did its function better if it was not as easy to switch around on, so I went with that. Toxic allows me to deal with Vaporeon. Rapid Spin, of course. Rapid Spin, no need for explanation there. I went with Water Pulse over Scald because the extra power was more important than the burn chance for me in this matchup. And I've got Dragon Pulse there, which is going to be basically just for the Kn-EEL. Also, I guess lets me hit Vaporeon, but pretty much just Kn-EEL. I want to be able to hit that thing with Blastoise. Blastoise is kind of a little bit of a check for it. Next up here, I've got my Zygarde, and I'm running a weakness policy set with a good deal of bulk. I've got just enough speed to outpace an Adamant Kn-EEL. That's what I was creeping, an Adamant Kn-EEL. That was one of the benchmarks I was looking at. And I've just basically went the rest in HP, and then whatever I had left I put into attack. That's kind of the logic behind this set. I've got basically the standard 4 moves you always see on it. The reason I went with a little bit of bulky with weakness policy is he had a lot of Pokemon that could hit Zygarde super effectively, but he didn't have that many that could KO it, so I thought there was a very good chance I was going to be hit and would survive ultimately a super effective attack in this game, and that's why this set. Next up here, I've got a Tapu Bulu, and this is designed to put pressure on some of his walls, being Porygon 2 and more importantly Vaporeon. They could kind of come in on some of my offensive Pokemon, so I wanted to be able to punish them if they did come in, and that was kind of what I had in mind, bringing a Banded Bulu. There wasn't really a need for speed on this thing, nothing too worth investing in, so I just kind of went back and put in my HP and maxed out my attack. Of course, I got Wood Hammer and Horn Leech, the two powerful nuke moves this guy's got. Superpower let me basically hit what Wood Hammer and Horn Leech didn't for the most part, nothing too special there. And for my last move I got Facade, and that's because I wanted to be able to bring this thing in on Vaporeon without worrying, oh, is it going to burn me? I just wanted to be able to bring it in on it. Facade, if I am burned, it hits the Pokemon that would want to come in on a burned Bulu. If Bulu isn't burned, I don't think he has anything that's really going to appreciate a Wood Hammer. If I do get burned, things that might want to come in include Kn-EEL and Alolan Muck, and Facade is able to hit them. Next up here, I've got my Nidoqueen, physically defensive, allows me to deal with some of his better physically attacking threats. I butchered that explanation, but there are a few things that it covers a little bit. Kn-EEL, of course, one. Talked quite a bit about that Pokemon. It was something I was very careful about, something that was threatening to me. Helped me take a hit from Landorus, because there were certain scenarios where I would have potentially wanted to lead off with Nidoqueen, and there is definitely also scenarios where he may want to bring in landers on the Nidoqueen, especially once he sees Black Sludge, which means no Shuka, no Scarf. Anyway, here I've got Ice Beam, Earth Power. That's kind of what I need to hit everything. Aside from Landorus, really, Earth Power gets the job done. No real complaints. Super Fang allows me to cover things like P2 and Vaporeon if they want to come in. Obviously, Super Fang is not going to take them out, but if I click Super Fang on them, they have to click the recovery move, which allows me to get Bulu in, which allows me to pressure their team, so it is getting the job done. And Stealth Rocks, because Stealth Rocks, speaking of Stealth Rock, also got them on Cobalion. The reason I put them on Cobalion, there were a few fourth move options for it that were good, but I thought it was more important for me to be able to play aggressive with Nidoqueen. I did think there were definitely scenarios where I wanted to lead off with it, and if I wanted to let him Earthquake my Nidoking in exchange to be able to click Ice Beam, I wouldn't have been able to set up rocks with Nidoqueen, so it was nice to have the backup rocks with Cobalion because they were relatively important in this matchup. Cobalion's going to be running a specially attacking set, Modest, just enough speed to outpace his. Let's see if I remember it. No, I don't think I do. I think it might have been a base 95 or the base 90 actually, I mean. But, oh well, my memory's crap, you guys know that. Hidden Power Ice, of course, for the Landorus. Focus Blast, just kind of the best move to hit him. I'm running the Phytinium Z on this thing because it just kind of nukes a few things. Really makes Cobalion annoying for him to deal with. Hitting things like Muck, Kamolo. There's not too much he has that really appreciates the Phytinium. It also allows me potentially to catch Vaporeon. And speaking of Vaporeon, Volt Switch also helps with that. Allows me to keep up momentum. This can pressure a few things out, and momentum is pretty nice in this matchup. And lastly, I've got my weirdest set of the bunch, which is going to be especially defensive. Coil, Rest, Sleep Talk, Facade, Eel, and this was a little bit of an interesting bring. Looking over his team, I realized I kind of wanted to bring Electros, and I was looking at it potentially as an Assault Vest variant, but then I thought to myself, what does he have to break a Coil set? And he did have some options, but it definitely was tricky for him, so I thought there might be some potential to Coil up. I did want to have Sleep Talk because on the special side, if I didn't have Sleep Talk, he could kind of be able to, I don't know if you'd really say break me, but he wouldn't let me have the opportunity to really wake up and fire off attacks. So I wanted to have Sleep Talk, which only left me one attack, and ruled out Electric. He had ground types, ruled out Dragon Tail. He had fairy types. I eventually decided that I wanted Facade, which is just kind of the most general move that kind of hits his team once I can set up. And that is my team here. So I'm going to go back to the battle. I think that was a pretty long explanation, but I guess it's a pretty important game, so why not? Get the right angle set up. So here I decided I just wanted to lead off with my Blastoise, I believe. No, I led off with my Zygarde, right. Actually, that was part of my plan, to lead off with Zygarde. I'll let the leads go off first, and then I'll explain it, because I do have some explaining to do with this turn. So my plan was if I saw Ribombee, I would lead off with Zygarde, and that's because if he clicked Sticky Web, I would get my free Dragon Dance off and become threatening. If he went right to attack me, he would activate my weakness policy. It would not KO me unless he was Specs, which I did not think he would be. But he would activate my weakness policy, and that would put the thing in range of my extreme speed. So I was thinking it covered that. Not too much. I didn't think he'd ever lead off with Vaporeon, which is the one thing that would really force me out. I was fine with Landorus, I was fine with Muck, I was relatively fine with Azelf, and he ends up leading with Kn-EEL. So here I know more likely than not I'm able to survive clanging scales. He was more likely, in my mind, to be Dragon Dance anyway, and I definitely took an Outrage, definitely took a Dragon Claw. So I decided I just want to Dragon Dance up here and kind of feel him out, see what he wants to do. I'm thinking he would not Dragon Dance here. I was pretty confident in that. So I just decided to go for my Dragon Dance here. And he's going to go out into his Rabombi here. I'm going to click Dragon Dance. Now my thought process here, Extreme Speed is my best move to hit him. I assume he would just attack me, which would trigger my weakness policy, and then Extreme Speed into Extreme Speed would definitely take this thing out. So that's my thought process here. Just want to make sure that there's no Focus Sash shenanigans or anything like that, and I'm just going to click my Extreme Speed. And he takes 31% and then hits me with Moonblast and triggers my weakness policy. 31%. He is fully physically defensive Rabombi, and I unfortunately have Extreme Speed over Iron Tail, which of course I stand by that. In matchup I thought it looked nicer, but in the practice of reality it wound up being unfortunate. Iron Tail would have been able to get the job done. But he comes out physically defensive, and he is walling me, and he takes a +1 E-Speed into +3 E-Speed, so I am forced out here because of a wall Rabombi. So definitely props to my opponent here. That was a smart bring that really paid off for him in a big way. Zygarde is a Pokemon he was really worried about, and he got a little crafty to be able to deal with it here. I, of course, am not fearing this thing, knowing that it's physically defensive. It's not going to be an offensive threat to my Nidoqueen, so no reason to let Zygarde go down here. I'll just bring in my Queen. This thing being physically defensive is really annoying for my Zygarde, but it makes it less of a threat to the rest of my team. So I bring my Queen in here. He's going to go for Moonblast, do a little bit. I'm, of course, just going to get my Rocks up as he shows the U-turn, does a little bit of chip here. He's going to bring in his Vaporeon, and here I've just got my switch into this prepared. I know I'm going right into Bulu. He's going to go for his Scald, and he burns me, but I knew in advance that Vaporeon was going to burn my Tapu Bulu. So I am packing the Facade, and I am going to click that. He does not seem to have a very great switch in on Facade, and Vaporeon is not comfortably walling it. So I click my Facade here. He goes out into the Alolan Muck, and it is going to take 66%. Fortunately for me, he is Black Sludge over Berry, so he is in range of another Facade and does not have a great switch in. Bulu is going to get the first KO of the game and get a little bit of health up just to burn it. He's going to bring in his Kn-EEL here. I did consider for a second just clicking another Facade, but my concern was him potentially just going for Poison Jab, which he very well might have been. So I'm going to switch out here. I'm going to go into my Blastoise on what I imagine would be a Focus, or not a Focus, a Poison Jab. He actually shows the bulk up, which is pretty interesting here. My Blastoise is physically, no, it's not physically, it's got HP investment, though fully HP investment, and a pretty good physically defense stat. Plus I've got my modest Mega Launcher Dragon Pulse, so I'm just going to go right for that here. And he is going to go into his Vaporeon. I'll get a little bit of chip here. He's going to be a mix between, what I'll figure out is that he's going to be a mix between physically and specially defensive, so that's some good information to get. With the Vaporeon in here, I imagine that this turn he's just going to Wish, especially since I've got Rocks up. Keeping this thing healthy, I imagine, would be a high priority. So I'm going to go for my Toxic here, assuming he's not going to try and Toxic me or do anything that would really punish my Blastoise. And he is going to switch out into his Kn-EEL here. And what he was doing there, he went into his Kn-EEL because he thought that I was going to go into my Tapu Bulu, which was a valid guess. because I've shown Dragon Pulse, which means I've shown Dragon Pulse and Modest, so he was probably under the assumption that I was either a 3 coverage and spin or a 4 coverage type of Blastoise and would be forced out by the Vaporeon. So he goes into Kn-EEL trying to predict the Bulu, but I'm very glad to be able to get my Toxic off on that, which was intended for the Vaporeon. I'm just going to click Dragon Pulse again. I'm going to get Vaporeon nice and weakened if he does go out into it. Nothing else really wants to come in on Blastoise. He's going to get leftovers here, and then this is an interesting situation. He's in range of Dragon Pulse, but he's not in range of it if he goes for the Protect, so I'm actually just going to go and predict the Protect instead of trying to pick it off if it isn't or it doesn't. So I will bring in my Bulu here, and he is going to go for the Protect, so I made the right call here. He can't get out of range of my Facade without getting a double Protect, which I'll take those chances. So I'm going to go for my Facade here, lock myself in, and that move of course will cover potential switch-ins. He's going to go for a Protect, and then he's going to bring in his Landorus Therian knowing he is in range for the Facade. Landorus Therian is going to take a ton. He's going to take 43%, and then based on the calc that's going to tell me he's pretty bulky, so Bulu's just beasting here. So I am forced out here. I do not want to let my Bulu go down to this thing. And my thought process here is that Landorus on a Bulu, 3 moves it would click, especially considering it's grassy terrain, but I think there's 3 moves it would click. It would either click Sky Strike, would either click Sludge Wave or Sludge Bomb, or would click U-Turn. So I'm going to go to my Cobalion, which covers all of those. He's going to go for his Sky Strike here. Last time I played him, I had Hidden Power Ice and I hit his Landorus with it. I am pretty confident that he is going to be under the assumption I've got the Hidden Power Ice again. And I think he might take this opportunity to try to bring his Vaporeon in and try to get it back up to health. With it being that low, its opportunities to get healed up are not very numerous. So I think that right here, he's just going to try and bring his Vaporeon in. And I am actually going to click my Volt Switch. But he, to my surprise, decides to leave the Landorus in, and my Cobalion's going to go down. So, not the best turn for me. But, so here I am looking at this Landorus, which is shown to be Sky Strike and Earthquake. I decide that this thing, more likely than not, is going to be set up fodder for my Eelektross. And I think it might be showtime. Even if Eelektross is not setting up to go for game here, I can kind of feel out what his response is to that, and I can kind of dictate the way I want to play the rest of the game. So here I'm going to bring in my Eel, and I'm just going to click my Coil. He goes for Fly thinking I'm Assault Vest, and he just wants to get damage off before I take him out. And that's going to be costly for him as I get my 2 Coils up as he hits me with a Fly for nothing. So here in my thought process, I just wanted to click my, oh boy, let me try to explain this. I just want to click my Facade because I thought he might want to switch out now instead of just clicking Coil. And I didn't know how great his response would be. I didn't want to play around with any kind of, what I was thinking here is, since I've just clicked Coil twice, I think he may try to hard switch to Vaporeon if he does have the move Haze, and that's one of the big obstacles for me. So, thinking about the potential for it to be Haze, I'm gonna look like an idiot if it doesn't learn that. I'm pretty sure it does. But, I'm gonna go for a Facade, which covers potential Vaporeon switch in. He does decide to just leave the Landorus in and go for a Hidden Power Ice, which does nothing. At this point, it looks to me like he's just going to let the Landorus go down, so I'm going to Coil up, and I'm going to Coil up, and I'm going to Coil up, and I'm going to Coil up, until eventually here, I'm just going to decide to click my Facade here. Didn't want to give him a chance to roar while I was asleep and had to play around with Sleep Talk, so I didn't want to go to sleep. He brings in his Kn-EEL here. I didn't want to mess around with this thing. I'm going to go right for an attack on it, right for my Facade, hit the thing. Getting this thing down definitely simplifies things for me, especially for him not having any switching at all on Bulu. So I'm not going to play games, not going to try and sleep, give him an opportunity to roar, to Dragon Tail, to whatever. Kmove's going to go down here, which is very nice for me to see. He's going to bring in the Azelf. Azelf is the biggest obstacle to me winning here, so I'm not going to risk resting. I want this damage on Azelf. I want to be able to see that thing go down. Makes things a lot easier for the rest of my team. And that thing will go down. My eel is now weakened. Vaporeon comes in. Again, just going to Facade. Don't want to risk him having the roar. Vaporeon goes down. And now it is down to Ribombee versus a World, but I have Toxic on my Blastoise, so I'm not scared of this thing. And he is going to go for Moonblast. Eel is going to survive it, and Eel is going to claim its 5th KO and complete a 5-mon sweep. Game was 5-5 when Eel came in, and game was 5-5 without Eel leaving, or 5-0 without Eel leaving. And in our semi-final game for the promotion playoffs, it is going to be Big Eel stepping up big time. Cobalion will have 1 death. Eel is going to have 5 KOs, and Bulu will have 1 KO. And it was definitely great to see a set that I brought that was more out there, outside the box. Sorry, I have to put my charger in. My laptop's about to die. Not my most professional moment, but not my least, so I'll stand by it. Anyway, as I was saying, Eel is able to step up in the biggest way, and next up we are moving on to the promotional finals against Commonly. And if we win this, we will be promoted from minors to majors, and we will, if we do win it, we will face Count for a championship plus a invite to LD, which is an interesting little prize. So next up will be our promotional finals against Common, so big game there. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know I did. I want to thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a good night.